found the only geek culture showcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is the Geek Speak Show. The Geek Speak Show talks about and to the movers and shakers in geek culture.
God bless the geek.
The Geek Speak Show is powered by GeekTyrant.com, Collider.com, RamaScreen.com, and MightyVale.com. Get ready to speak geek on the Geek Speak Show with your host, Henry. Hi, we're here. Welcome to the Geek Speak Show, another exciting episode. We're all here today. We haven't been together since, what, the Avengers, Big Wow? No, you were never that Big Wow. So
It's been weeks. I've missed you guys.
We missed you too.
Aww.
We're all together, and it's going to be exciting.
It is. The old team is back again.
We have assembled. Yeah, we're not over it yet. So welcome back to the Geek Speak Show. Big movie coming this weekend, Prometheus, the prequel. That's not really a prequel. Actually, spoiler alert. You guys want to know actually what Prometheus really is?
No, I've been so good about not finding anything out about this movie. I'm keeping myself so safe.
It's not really a spoiler alert because it doesn't spoil anything. I'll just say
Avengers for me. I don't trust you anymore.
I told you. All I said it was good.
Yeah, no, you said more.
That's like saying we breathe oxygen. I mean, was there any question?
There was never a question. It was.
But no,
good.
The thing about Prometheus, it's not a prequel to Alien. It's a branch. I'll call it that.
It's set in the same universe, right?
Kind of.
Oh, see, that was all that I really knew because I was keeping myself safe.
Either way, it's going to be awesome.
Well, okay, yeah, that's a given.
Yeah.
That's not a spoiler. We just established.
Sir Ridley Scott. He wasn't even a sir then. Since Sir Ridley Scott did anything sci-fi. He had Blade Runner. He had Alien, which, by the way, you've seen Alien? You've seen Alien?
Oh, yeah. Nightmares about Alien.
Jesus, our video show director. You've seen Aliens? We've all seen Aliens,
We've
of course.
all seen it.
What? I saw you. I saw some hands out there. A couple of them. You haven't seen Alien?
There are people on the planet like that?
Good thing we have Louise.
Oh, thank God.
The Geek Movie Rewind will talk all about Aliens, very apropos for that. But what are we going to talk about?
We are going to talk about some of our guests. And
we're going to talk about Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, trick me.
We're all going to be there. If you guys want to see what we actually look like, well, you can see Rachel, Ari. You don't want to see what I look like.
Oh, no, we're getting Henry on camera.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, hello. Whether I like it or not, I can joke about all I want. I have to be on cameras. But seriously, we're going to be at 2980 Treat Boulevard in Concord. Flying Colors Comics. Oh, yeah, other cool stuff. That's there, too. Joe Field will be there. You all know me. He's been on the show many times. You see him at WonderCon. You see him when you go today, like Wednesday, every new Wednesday. Well, another big thing also in comics, comic book world. Watchmen, DC is doing the prequel, launches today before Watchmen. That one, Marvel did it in a fun way earlier this year. They said, okay, pick sides. Either you're an Avenger or you're an X-Men. AVX is a really cool comic series. And
it's a big crossover event. It's been really fantastic.
We have pick sides, but you know, we all like both anyway. This one, I don't think DC meant that. It's literally cut a path right between either you really, really like it or you're joining up with Alan Moore. What the hell? What do you mean prequel? Prequel to Watchmen? You can't do a prequel to Watchmen. He said you can't do a movie to Watchmen either. Oh yeah, you can't. So we're gonna talk.
Can try.
That's the key word.
Yeah.
And the result, not so good. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Our guy David Lee, he'll talk about Watchmen. He may surprise you. Well, from his usual responses, what it is. He may surprise you what he'll say. So. Like I said, let's go back and talk to Flying Colors stuff.
I am so excited. I have become such a fan of the show since working with them on this show. Going into the store is fantastic, and getting all set up for the video show, I just couldn't be more thrilled to do this. They have such an amazing staff, too. Really outgoing, friendly people.
Let's talk about our part. Our part is what? You hit the microphone?
Video. Yeah, I hit
the microphone.
You know what? I hit the microphone, but I didn't hit Rachel.
I thought it was kind of quiet last week's show. There was no.
That's why.
There was none of this. Like that.
Yeah, but like I said, let's talk about our part first. Our part is going to be obviously the video show. It's a whole big event. If you guys were there for Free Comic Book Day, it's sort of like maybe not as big, but although like Joe always says, every day is a party at Flying Colors, and it is. But what we're going to do is we're going to have cameras pointed right at you. Big Brother will be watching. or little cousin.
No,
or whatever you
less,
want it.
way less intimidating. A very friendly, like, smiling camera full of smiley, happy people are going to capture your fun and excitement. This is not threatening. Shh.
You will be smiling because wait till you hear from Joe in a second, and he'll tell you what's coming from their side. But as far as we're concerned, I'm going to talk, first of all, it'll be a sit down with Joe and myself. We'll talk about the history of Flying Colors, the store, and his history, because his history is very colorful also. You guys who don't know it, you'll see what we mean. You guys will be there. You guys, meaning you, the listeners, will be there. Afterwards, you can ask anything you've always wanted to know or not about Flying Colors. We'll have you on camera doing that. Then after that, it'll be fun.
It's going to be fun during. You keep understating. I'm really excited actually hearing Joe's take on the comics business. He's been in comics for so long, and he has such a unique perspective on it from what he's been doing. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the questions
Well, I'll
that
tell you
people
what,
bring with
get
them.
in line. You can ask it.
Ooh, can I? Can I really?
Yeah.
Well,
So-
the cool part is that everybody, listeners, people that go to the store, whoever's there, can be a part of this geek culture celebration, which really is what it is.
Celebration it is. Cuz, let's hear from Joe. Hey, Joe.
Hey, good to be with you all.
Good to have you. Can't wait till Saturdays. And tell everybody what is going to happen on Saturday.
Saturday at Flying Colors is Hulk Smash Brownie Day. You want to know what that means?
Yes.
Oh, please.
We do.
They're all fist bumping over here.
We were.
Well, every year on Free Comic Book Day, my amazing wife Libby makes these things called cream de menthe brownies, and they're amazing, and they always go too fast. So, given that this Free Comic Book Day was the best day in Flying Colors history, and that May wound up as the best month ever, we wanted to do a big thank you party. So we decided one of the ways to do a big thank you party was to have her cream de menthe brownies make a return engagement. We have redubbed them Hulk Smash Brownies in honor of customers who came up with that special name. So basically what we're doing on Saturday is a big thank you party to everybody for making Flying Colors May the best month we've ever had, and so there's going to be all kinds of things that are a part of that.
Before you go on, let me ask you this, because I've been to a few Free Comic Book Days at Flying Colors, even before I started doing this show. And all of them are big. Like you always say, every day is a party there. And so is Free Comic Book Day. I can't imagine one being bigger than the other, because it just seems like every year just keeps getting bigger and bigger. To you, what made this one so great?
I just think we had everything together. We did things a little bit differently. We tried to make it more of a comfortable experience for everyone, which allowed the store to be a little bit more open. And we did a lot of promotion, talking with you guys, getting on TV, press releases. I had NBC News here to do an interview. I had the Associated Press calling me the day before Free Comic Book Day. There was all kinds of things going on.
You had the mayor there.
And we had the mayor. We had the mayor with the proclamation from the city, and we had two really excellent marquee guests in Georges Jonty and Zach Whedon, particularly since both of them did work in a couple of the Free Comic Book Day editions. So it was just a great opportunity to sort of tie everything together and really make it as big as possible. And 1,200 people through a store this size in one day is pretty darn good. I still want to see if we can. We've done better than that. We've had more than that on other events, but those events tend to be the Jim Lee signing for X-Men #1. For instance, where everyone in the Bay Area who liked comics came out for that one. But Free Comic Book Day has really turned into just a massive thing. We're just. I hear from so many of my different retailer friends in the business that they did a whole lot more than 1,200 people through their doors. My friend Brian at A1 Comics in Sacramento, they did about 2,000 people up there. My friend Chris down at Four Color Fantasies in Rancho Cucamonga, they probably had 2,500 to 3,000. And there are some events that are as many as 5,000. But for a store our size, keeping it comfortable and keeping it real, I think we did about as good as we could expect.
And I know everybody's dying to know, based on if you've been there and saw how big this Free Comic Book Day was and anything in the past, what is going to go on this Saturday that is going to bring this event up to that playing field?
Well, I think this is going to be a whole lot more mellow an event than Free Comic Book Day. However, we've got all kinds of things going on. Besides, even though Libby won't be here, her Hulk Smash brownies will be. So anyone who was expecting to see her, you're going to be sorely disappointed, but you won't be disappointed in the brownies, okay? And then we also have the Geek Speak video show. Come on.
Yeah.
That's top of the list, and so we've got a cool idea with the way we're going to set things up for the TV show, and we hope that there will be some people here to serve as our studio audience. We are going to do something that we, as a part of the TV show, we're going to do something that we call Comic Slam, in which we will be dramatically delivering magnificent monologues from some of our favorite comics, and we're still not sure if anyone, any of our Flying Colors faithful will get up and do that, but I think the staff will. So, and
there's actually, you should tell everybody, there's actually a sample of that, a sample video of it on your Facebook page of you reading something. Yes, there is.
Yeah, and if you go to the Flying Colors Comics page on YouTube, you'll see a couple of my comic slams doing a soliloquy from Amazing Spider-Man number 33, where he's lifting the machinery off of his back and has to get the antidote to his Aunt May, and then the other one is from Captain America 122, where Steve Rogers questions his existence and why he's been fighting for so long, and it's a really nice piece that was drawn by Gene Colan and written by Stan Lee. So a couple of good classic ones. So I'm the old guy, so I pull out the really good classic old stuff. But we've also done some contemporary things too with that.
Can people bring in their own favorite scenes for us to reenact or for themselves to do?
We are hoping that there will be people who will bring in. And the requirement is you bring in the comic, and we'll screen it first because we're trying to make this sort of a family-friendly event, even though. Of course. Okay. And we are hoping to get a few people up in front to deliver their own personal comic slams.
And hey, you know what? I'll say, if you want to come in costume and do it, you're more than welcome to too.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah. It could be weird, but it could be weird fun.
No, it could be awesome. I love when people show up in costume. Like, that enthusiasm.
So do I.
You can't beat it.
So do I. We encourage it. I come as a retailer every day.
It's funny. I dress up like a comic book nerd every day.
Yeah. Well, I do too. Okay. Along with the Comic Slam, then we have the Comics Jam.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we know what Rachel's favorite is going to be.
Yeah. And the Comics Jam is basically, we're going to start with a single panel that will start off a story, and then we're going to ask those who want to participate to sign up, and they'll get 15 minutes to draw the next panel in the story.
And are stick figures allowed? Because, I love comics, but I can only draw things with circles and lines.
As long as we can tell who the characters are. If skill was a requirement here, we probably wouldn't get any participation. So
everyone's invited.
Everyone is invited, yes. If, however, anyone feels that it's a little too daunting to add a panel to an existing story, we will have art paper and supplies for them just to do their own thing, to their own picture to add to our Flying Colors fan art board. So you've got a couple of different ways to go there.
So all artists come and be a part of this celebration.
Yeah, that's what we want. And then, what else? Okay, Comic Slam, Comics Jam, Hulk Smash, Geek Speak, and we got a couple. We'll have a special deal for everyone who comes in. So anyone who comes to the event will get a little certificate that'll be good for a deal.
And I know I'm going to be flipping through those trade paperback bins again.
Yes, we do have those. Yeah, we do have those. The blowout book bargain section, we will, which was incredibly popular on Free Comic Book Day. We went through more than 700 books on Free Comic Book Day, and we'll be adding to that for Hulk Smash Brownie Day.
Yeah, so that's going to be happening this Saturday, June 9th, starting at 12 p.m. Come on down and be a part of all of that. It is going to be publicly, I should say worldwide on the internet. So most of you here in the Bay Area, you know Joe and you know the story of Flying Colors. But Joe and I will do a sit down beforehand. You guys are welcome to sit, stand, whatever you can do, and watches. Then afterwards, you get to ask whatever you want to know or didn't want to know, but you are going to ask anyway about Flying Colors.
Because you like to live on the edge.
Everything you wanted to know about comics retailing, but we're not afraid to ask.
Yeah, you can do all of that. So again, Joe, we will see you on Saturday. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Let me say beforehand, thank you again for opening up Flying Colors and allowing us to do that there.
Oh, it'll be fun. Looking forward to it.
Okay, so we'll see you on Saturday.
Great.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Comics Commentary with David Lee on the Geek Speak Show.
Hey, welcome back to yet another episode of Comics Commentary with me. So, this week we're going to talk about a little something I like to call Watchmen. Back in the 80s when the comic was first released, this comic was practically revolutionary in how it was made and how it was released. It was a 12-issue maxi series, if I recall correctly, and it told the tale of a dystopian future in which everything had gone to hell. Richard Nixon was serving multiple terms. You had got to see the genesis of heroes from, say, the 1940s era all the way into, like, the 80s when the comic came out. It was actually very interesting reading this comic and seeing the portrayal and the differences in heroes between the 40s and then the quote-unquote current day. In the 40s, the Minutemen, or I should say the Mystery Men back then, Silk Spectre, the original Silk Spectre, I should say, the Comedian, and a few others, they were actually rather bright and shiny heroes. They were there as a, hey, look at us. But of course, as you all know, if you've read the comics, things didn't go right, some bad stuff happened. But life moved on. Jump forward in the Watchmen cartoon. Wow, hey, go me. In the Watchmen comic, things move forward and you got to see a new generation of heroes. Dr. Manhattan, Ozymandias, Owlman, another version of Silk Spectre, and this Rorschach, and the same comedian from the original run. These heroes were different, darker, and then some of them had retired already, all but everyone's favorite Watchman, Rorschach. He stuck around, paranoid as ever. Now, I remember reading this comic in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, and thinking, wow, this is actually a really decent comic series. Way to go, DC Vertigo. I dug it. You know, you had your edginess, you had your hip in jokes at the time for the comics, plus the little mini comics in between for Tales of the Black Freighter were actually really interesting. At that point, I knew I'd had a really solid comic that I'd want to read for years to come. But like all things, Watchmen did fade from my mind until, I want to say, what was it, listeners? Around about, say, 2010, 2011, when, probably in 2009, when it was announced that Zack Snyder, creator of 300, would be taking on the role of director for a Watchmen movie. Alan Moore, of course, decried this, which he tends to do. The less I can say about that, the better. But the movie was still made. The movie was actually very interesting, even though they completely took off the Tales of the Black Freighter and put it on a separate Blu-ray. Not sure how I felt about that one. You know, if you're going to take out something like that, at least keep it on the Blu-ray. Keep it on the DVD as a little bit of a bonus. Don't try to double dip and use the Watchmen name to get some extra money. No good. The portrayals of the characters by actors such as Billy Crudup as Dr. Manhattan. I can't remember who played Ozymandias, but he was great. You also had Jackie Earle Haley from the Bad News Bears as a child. He played the role of Rorschach. You also had I believe Patrick Wilson playing the role of Dan Drayberg, a.k.a. Night Owl. And you had Malin Ackerman playing the role of Silk Spectre, amongst others. And let's not forget the always outstanding Jeffrey Dean Morgan, as you all know him from Supernatural, as the role of Papa Winchester, playing the role of the comedian. Great performance by everybody. Only problem I had was, y'all, you know it, y'all have seen it, the big blue junk. Holy crap, scary. I didn't quite want to see big blue radioactive wing wong brushing around the movie theater screen. When I bought it in Blu-ray, I was kind of frightened. I don't know why I did that. But overall, the movie actually paid very close attention to the comic, and it paid it paid tribute to a comic series that was forgotten for some time. Watchmen, the comic, had stood the test of time over the years, falling into cult status and then always being loved somewhere. And then the movie followed into that and was actually worthy of the Watchmen status. Unfortunately, though, the end was different. I'm not going to spoil it for maybe the 3 or 4 listeners who have not seen it nor read the comics. I ain't into that. But overall, it was, like I said, it was a really good movie. Now, I believe it's actually been released today. I haven't made it down to my local comic shop. There's a new prequel coming out, kids. It's called Before Watchmen. This is supposed to tell a tale of things, obviously, before the whole series went down. Normally, I'm not too much of a fan of a prequel because I like to have a lot of the stuff left to my imagination. That way, it kind of becomes my character. Like, take, for instance, you've got, like, Cyclops, for example. You have pretty much the footnotes of how things went down. But in my brain, I kind of like to have these little, like, fantasy things that happen with the character. You know, kind of give it my own twist. When you have a prequel, everything is pretty much explained out for you, and I don't know, just kind of ruins the mystery and the excitement of the character. However, with this Before Watchmen, I'm kind of interested in seeing how it goes. I really would like to see the prequel for this dystopian future. How did it start coming to pass? Where did these characters originally come from? What drove Rorschach to be a stark raving psychopath? And where did he get that mask? I want one. To quote Joker from the '89 Batman movie, where does he get those wonderful toys? I want one. So, in closing, I think this is going to be a great issue coming out. I'm not sure if it's going to be the start of a little series for this, but I hope it does. So, with that being said, that's going to go ahead and close this comics commentary for this week. Before I let you guys go, a couple things. Number one, as probably all of you listeners here, since you're all probably about my age, early 30s, you guys probably either grew up or had a secret love for the Power Rangers. That's right. Jason, Trini, Zach, Kimberly, Billy, and Tommy, the original Rangers, with the green thrown in the middle of the first season. Well, guess what, guys? It's been a long time since we've all seen the Power Rangers in anything outside of Netflix. Coming up this summer, guys, in August, we're getting Season 1, Volume 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to have my Morphin buckle ready, and I'm going to be watching it like crazy. Second thing I'd like to point out is, man, where are you guys' emails? Come on. I know you guys are listening to me out there. Shoot me your topics. Shoot me your ideas. You want me to discuss something I missed on Watchmen? Well, hey, let me know. Say you want me to talk about, I don't know, Avengers vs. X-Men. What did I think of panel 45, page 10? Shoot me a line. Let me know. I'll look into it and I'll discuss it on a future episode. Who knows, guys? The next episode might be yours. Just remember, I'm at David Lee at thegeekspeakshow.com, all one word. You can also find me on the Geek Speak Radio Show Facebook. I'm always watching there. Until next time, this has been David Lee with Comics Commentary. I'll see you guys in 7 in the funny pages.
Hi, this is Scott Marcano, Mr. Diablo, telling you to listen to the Geek Speak Show, or I'll send you to hell.
And you don't want to go there. Welcome back to the Geek Speak Show. I felt like it was October there for a second. Almost there.
Oh, you're so hopeful. It's not October yet.
Yes, I am. It felt like it earlier this week here in San Francisco. It was raining and thunder and everything.
Know.
My kind of weather. Anyway, so welcome back to the Geek Speak Show. That's what David Lee thinks about Watchmen. What are you thinking? Send me an email at henry@thegeekspeakshow.com. Like it, don't really care. Meh. So let me know. Prometheus. We talked about it a little in the intro. Who's looking forward to it here?
Me.
Oh, me. I am.
I thought you were going to hit something there when you...
No, I'm getting so much better at that. I'm learning spatial relations.
That, and we have the studio aerial proof now, so that probably has something to do with it.
There's a lot of foam core, like, just all over the place. It's kind of, it's
like
pretty.
A madhouse in here.
There is a ball pit if she hits me that I'm just going to throw her in, so keep her busy for a while.
See, that's not a threat. That's a promise.
It is.
Hey, we do have a video show now, huh? We could actually...
This is good.
All right. There could be epic battles. I know LARPers. Oh, don't give me that look. It's the Bay Area. There's LARPers, and I can have love for you, too. See why we need the
video show? Because we can't they can't hear you giving her a look.
Exactly.
But what was I talking about? Prometheus. I'm going to play a couple of clips for you. We were going to have Damon and Ridley, Sir Ridley, actually. It's Sir Ridley Scott now.
Yeah, you can't leave that off. I think there's a penalty and a fine.
That's true.
They were going to come on, but as you can imagine, they're a little busy doing all the TV shows. They're actually doing a premiere, I forget where, but they're doing a premiere for it. It's already playing in London, getting rave reviews. Everybody loves it over there. I've read a few. I'd stayed away like I always do from the spoiler ones. I'm not going to spoil you guys here. What I gave you before wasn't really a spoiler because it doesn't give anything away about the movie or anything. You still can go in there and... Okay, I'll stop because now I will give you a spoiler. Yeah,
that was me giving him a look again.
So
there were death beams shooting out my eyes.
One interesting thing I will say about Prometheus, and that is back at WonderCon earlier this year. It feels like 20 years ago. It was, March? I think it was. Yeah,
it was
March.
Really just a couple months ago.
But it feels like 20 years ago. Damon, we didn't do a video interview or anything, but Damon Lindelof and Sir Ridley Scott were there. They premiered the 3D trailer, played it twice, as a matter of fact. I actually ran into them at one of the press rooms. We didn't do an interview, but Damon, follows us, knows about this show. He retweets some of the stuff we do. And I just asked him off mic, off camera, we're both the same age, Damon and I. And I said, we were both 4 years old when the first Alien came out. He saw it the way I saw it, which was snuck our way in, not the theaters, but into the living rooms when it was on Cinemax or HBO, whatever it was on back then. And that's how we saw Alien. And I asked him, flash forward 30-something years, how does it feel like writing the movie that's kind of like Alien, but how does it feel writing a movie for Sir Ridley Scott? And he completely geeked out, and I won't share what he said because it was just for us, but I will share this. He does kind of touch on it a little bit. Here's a little clip courtesy of 20th Century Fox. This is Damon Lindelof, who wrote Prometheus. So when you come out of the theater and you love it so much, make sure you tweet him and say, "Great job, Damon, here he is."
So, at what point during this film's development process did you realize that Prometheus was becoming something bigger in scope and ambition than you had initially anticipated?
I think that the size of the movie, epic is a word that gets sort of thrown around a little bit willy-nilly, but obviously Ridley's desire to return to this universe that he left over 30 years ago, there had to be a reason behind it, and I think that the idea that Alien was his first movie and Blade Runner was his second, a sci-fi film, essentially, why come back? Why do it again? What more do you have to say? And that's the answer is because he had a lot more to say. He's been thinking about it all this time, and a big part of it is I worked on a much smaller canvas the last time. Now it's time for me to do my Sistine Chapel. It's just going to be bigger. I've never worked in 3D before, so I want to do that. I want to open up the world so it's not as claustrophobic. But at the same time, in addition to the movie just being bigger in scope in terms of the way that it looked, it also felt like it was bigger in terms of its thematic intent. And so Ridley, as a 40-year-old director, wants a movie to just be sort of scary and terrifying. Now that he's 30 years older, he's starting to ask different questions about mortality, the meaning of life, why are we here, what is our purpose? And as I started having these conversations with him as we were developing the screenplay, I suddenly was like, wow, Ridley Scott wants to do some more profound sci-fi. God, I hope he doesn't fire me because this sounds pretty cool.
Nice. What is your hope and expectation that audiences take away from seeing Prometheus?
I hope that there's a level of satisfaction in watching this, that the movie justified its own existence. I think it is set in that same Alien universe, so they'll feel a sense of, oh, it's nice to be here again, but at the same time, I hope that there's enough originality in the movie so that they're genuinely surprised. And I hope that it answers satisfactorily all the questions that they were asking in advance of it in terms of how does it connect to that previous movie, but at the same time distinguishes itself enough as an original movie to say that if there were a Prometheus 2, it would be even further afield of what we knew and entered into territory that we didn't know. So I hope that the movie is more intriguing than it is frustrating, and more exciting than it is head-scratching.
Nice. And what was it like collaborating with Ridley?
Collaborating with Sir Ridley Scott, I think that the word, visionary or auteur, icon gets thrown around pretty willy-nilly, but every time I was in a room with him, I kept sort of traveling out of my body and looking down and saying, like, oh my God, dude, you're talking to Ridley Scott right now. Don't say anything stupid. He's looking at you funny. He thinks you're an idiot right now. Shut up. Stop talking. And even last night when the movie premiered, I just sort of like looked over my shoulder, and there he was on the blue carpet, sort of talking, and I was like, I can't believe I get to be on this side of the carpet, not one of the screaming people asking him to sign stuff. It's been a real pinch myself experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be a pinch me kind of experience. Stop pinching over there. What's the matter?
What? Nothing.
She was absorbed in the interview.
I was trying to not get spoiled. I'm trying so hard. There's all this attention and all this stuff.
Well, I'll be honest, they actually did send me, 20th Century Fox did send me some spoiler-filled clips, but I'm not going to play those. That will give away the entire storyline and everything. But
oh, you're so good to me.
Kind of. I will say this. I'll warn you right now. Spoiler alert. Here's director Sir Ridley Scott. He does get, I'll call it into semi-spoilery territory here, so listen with caution.
At what point during this film's development process did you realize that Prometheus was becoming something bigger in scope and ambition than you had initially anticipated?
The original film, Alien, was kind of boxed into an old dark house theory with 7 people wandering around and then an 8th presence that became very dangerous. So in a sense it was a very contained movie. So I knew by stepping out of that arena, what I must do would have to be kind of epic, in the sense of it's going to have to ask larger questions, bigger questions. And the starting block question was always, who was the skeleton in the seat of the very first alien, and what did he mean? What was his intention by having such a cargo? And once you open that door and you step through into that new world, then it opens up into a huge arena. There was absolutely no problem in filling the walls of what would be called epic.
All right. And what is your hope and expectation that audiences take away from seeing Prometheus?
I mean, first of all, I hope they're really entertained, and then I hope they're really frightened, and then I hope they're really stressed to hell, and then I think, most of all, I hope they talk about it afterwards, into the car park, wherever you go to eat afterwards, and at breakfast time tomorrow morning.
And one more. Prometheus has some enormous practical sets. Why did you choose that over mostly CGI?
You know, CGI is purported to be saving money and cheaper, but it's not. I think if you know what you're doing, it's all based on the premise you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, everything's going to get out of control, and it's all going to be about how you're going to band-aid or mend what you didn't get the first time around. If you know what you're doing, whether you're green screen or whether you're set, if you're in control, it lands on budget, so there's no surprises. But my preference is to build as much set as possible, mainly because I want to keep the actors really engaged. If I give the actor a great room, he's going to walk in that room and he's going to come alive. If he walks into a green screen box, he's going to feel exposed.
Yes, I feel a little exposed as myself right now, but that's probably because I just came back from the bathroom. Hi. So that was Sir Ridley Scott, director of Prometheus and Alien Blade Runner. Yes, I know. I asked earlier. I saw a show of hands. A few of you out there, you haven't seen Alien. We've all seen it here. J.J. Abrams, Steven Spielberg, everybody's seen Alien. You haven't seen it?
There are people out there.
Well, it's a good thing we have Louise, and here she is to tell you all about Alien, why you should see it.
Geek Movie Rewind. Geek Movie Rewind. The movies that made you a geek. Except for the part where you didn't see them. Here's the Geek Speak Show's resident movie geek, Louise Du Cray.
Hey guys, Louise here with a very timely installment of Movie Rewind. Prometheus is coming out this week, and if you're not uncontrollably excited about that fact, well, where have you been? Right. Look, I understand that some of you have been missing out, and one of my friends recently admitted to me that he hasn't seen any of Sir Ridley Scott's science fiction films. No Blade Runner, no Alien, no nothing. Well, his newest offering is Prometheus, directed by Scott and written by John Spates and lost to Damon Lindelof. People have been talking about how it is an Alien prequel, it isn't, it kind of is, or it just takes place in the same universe, but also as Blade Runner, or they're all the same, or it has nothing to do with anything at all, and we're just trolling ourselves. I mean, what? I don't know. I haven't really looked into it because I want to be surprised. Maybe you know. But okay, whatever it has to do, or not, with Prometheus, the importance of Alien cannot be overstated. The film, written by Dan O'Bannon and directed by the yet-to-be-knighted Ridley Scott, was released in 1979, greenlit by 20th Century Fox in an attempt to capitalize on the success of Star Wars 2 years earlier. But Alien is not Star Wars. It was something different. Smaller and darker, while Star Wars was sweeping and operatic. Where Star Wars is straightforward hero myth stuff, Alien comes at you sideways. It really shows the depth and breadth of possibilities that sci-fi can explore. Now, I hold that science fiction, rather than being merely a genre in and of itself, is a language through which we can interpret many types of stories. You got your sci-fi drama, sci-fi comedy, and Alien absolutely has the key element of, oh my god, get out of there, bad news, don't! That tells you it's a horror film. The very first of its sort, basically. The plot is this. The Nostromo is a commercial spaceship towing an oil refinery and a bunch of ore back home to Earth. The crew are in stasis for the trip home and are pretty peeved to be woken up by the ship's computer, not at all ominously called Mother, before they're anywhere near home. The ship has picked up a transmission from an unknown planetoid, and according to protocols, the crew are awakened to investigate. The crew includes Sigourney Weaver in her first starring role as Ripley, along with Tom Skerritt, Ian Holm, Harry Dean Stanton, Yaphet Kotto, Veronica Cartwright, and John Hurt. Not to mention, it has to be said, a star turn from Jonesy the cat. The characters in Alien are not space opera heroes. They aren't princesses. They don't have any great and prophetic destinies. They are, well, the beauty of it is that they're just dudes. Space truckers, not badasses, not soldiers. These guys discuss discovering they've woken up crazy far from home in the vastness of space the way my boss might discuss screwing up the quality control in a quarter-end project. Oh, it might be a transmission from a heretofore unknown extraterrestrial intelligence? Heck with that. Engineer Parker just wants to get home and party. They're complaining about their boss. They're screwing around to make life more bearable. They just want to go home and be off the clock. And it's the normalcy of their daily life, the utter functionality of everything around them, you know? They're in space, but whatever, it's just another job. It's the mundanity of it all that makes what happens that much more horrific. They're astronauts, but they could certainly, in a couple centuries, be you or me. Not that any of us can hope to be as hardcore as Sigourney Weaver in a similar situation. I'd probably be one of the first to go, probably because I'm always running up to strange animals and trying to pet them. Anyway, the world of Alien is both ugly and beautiful. All those opening establishing shots of the Nostromo, you feel like you could walk right through the screen and run your hands along the walls. You know, every one of those details was put in for a utilitarian purpose, not to look cool, but to look commonplace. Such thought was put in. Well, this had to look like this, probably so that box could fit there. They wouldn't just add a blank wall in post back then. It really seems like a place you would live and work if you were trucking through deep space. And before a word is even spoken, you're invested and you want to know what's going on. So it starts out slow and atmospheric. Ridley Scott's films in the 70s and 80s basically define this kind of thing. Without it, we have no Firefly. Think about that. I mean, there's shots of the crew sitting around the kitchen table of the Nostromo that make a brown coat feel right at home. Other heirs apparent are Duncan Jones' Sam Rockwell showcase Moon, the highly underrated Pitch Black, District 9, the dark and gritty world of Christopher Nolan, pretty much the dark and gritty world of wherever. None of this really happens without Alien. And even though it's a little dated, the computers, for instance, and the haircuts, it doesn't really feel dated at all. It's still incredibly effective and pulls you in. There's a reason this film is iconic. I mean, even if you haven't seen it, you know about it. You've probably seen the cuddly facehugger on Think Geek, know what it means to have a John Hurt moment, but you've just got to see it for yourself. Really quick, here's what I love about Alien. Ripley. She's a woman. She's a stone-cold badass, but it's never really even mentioned, and it's not treated as notable or played for sexiness. She becomes this action hero because she has to, not because she has any special powers or training. She gets it done because it's what's got to be done, like John McClane in Die Hard. Another thing I love is the look of it. The claustrophobic scenes on the ship, the cold, inhuman vista where we first encounter our new friends. It's beautiful, really. It's also got some of that first-person documentary-style footage that later horror films would make great use of to effective and eventually exhaustive effects. It's important to note that really nothing quite like the alien creature had been seen before in Western film, as far as I can tell. Although it should be noted I'm not enough of a scholar to truly debate this. Get me in a room with some of these folks that teach college courses and write scholarly essays on the matter, I won't be able to go 10 rounds. But I'm just here to tell you how and why I love a thing. Feel free to email me at louise@thegeekspeakshow.com to explain to me how wrong I am. In any case, the visuals. Dan O'Bannon introduced Ridley to the art of surrealist H.R. Giger, whose work directly inspired the final look of the film. They recruited him, and he ended up designing everything non-human in the movie. He won a visual effects Oscar for it. The surface of the planet, the derelict ship, and every stage of the alien life cycle, from egg to horrifying space monster. Giger's organic biomechanical style gets to the very root of your nightmares. I tell you, I've walked right up to the alien at the Sci-Fi Museum in Seattle, looked her right in the face, and let me tell you, shivers. Don't do it. But really, do it if you get the chance. It was awesome. So, that's enough out of me. I will be seeing Prometheus this weekend, and whether or not it's a prequel or a sequel or a companion piece or something entirely and deliciously new, I don't even care. If it's a world Sir Ridley and his team are giving me, I'm in. So, let me know what you think, what important facts I might have missed, or just tell me what you think Prometheus is going to be all about by dropping me a line. Louise@thegeekspeakshow.com. Have a good week.
That's the Geek Movie Rewind. Agree? Disagree? Send your comments or suggestions to Louise at thegeekspeakshow.com.
Hey, this is Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn, and one of the original founders of Image Comics, and you're listening to Geek Speak Show. Thanks for coming.
We are back on the Geek Speak Show, so that's why you all should watch Alien if you haven't yet. So Prometheus is coming up. We've been talking about that. Enough Prometheus. There's a little movie that you like, Rachel.
There a few movies, actually.
Yeah,
I think 6.
I would say just one that started everything. Yeah, it's 6, right? Lost count.
Yeah.
Somebody else just like you loves everything Star Wars.
Oh, a new friend for me?
Yes, let's meet him. Director J.C. Reifenberg is on. He directed Hughes The Force. J.C., welcome to the Geek Speak Show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Pleasure having you on. So for the few, 2-3 people that maybe haven't seen Hughes The Force yet, tell us what it's all about.
Hughes The Force is a mashup of John Hughes movies and Star Wars. It's about half-hour long. It's got lightsabers and blasters and a hot chick in a slave Leia bikini. The ways of the Force, but also all that great high school angst, trying to get into the party and get the head cheerleader when you're kind of a little bit too geeky to pull yourself away from the computer at night.
Yeah, borrows a lot actually from Weird Science, but John Hughes' most famous film, arguably, is The Breakfast Club, and there's a homage to that at the very end. But why did you guys go with Weird Science more than Breakfast Club?
Weird Science worked best because the original inspiration for the idea was kind of in Weird Science they use a Barbie doll to create this perfect woman and try to kind of takes them as a Padawan and teaches them, the ways of the world, and in the end they get the girl of their dreams. And I was like, well, if I was trying to come up with an idea for a Star Wars fan film, and the Slave Leia action figure is so iconic that I thought, like, oh, well, a Star Wars nerd wouldn't have a Barbie doll sitting around. And why do they even have a Barbie doll in Weird Science? That doesn't make sense. But I was like, I've got plenty of Slave Leia action figures. So I was like, they'd hook that up to the machine. She'd use the Force instead of having just like magic powers. And it's kind of the same parallel. There's in Weird Science, they go to a bar and they kind of get drunk and they have to learn their lesson there. Similarly, in Star Wars, they go to a bar. Luke, he doesn't like you and gets into a fight, learns his lesson, and they move on. So it just, the basic plot points of Weird Science just paralleled really nicely to Star Wars and what we were trying to do.
Well, so between the John Hughes oeuvre and all of the cultural references in Star Wars, how did you decide which references to throw in and to keep that balance so that you wouldn't go too far and just have it be nothing but quote after quote after quote?
Well, all the quotes we used, we tried to have be relevant to the situation. Meaning we didn't just pick a laundry list of quotes and be like, how can we write a movie around these quotes? We kind of wrote the movie, and then when we went back to tweak the dialogue, we were kind of like, what would a Star Wars quote work here? Would a Breakfast Club quote work here? And we kind of tried to work it in that way as opposed to starting with the quotes and then working backwards.
I was actually really impressed with how cohesive the story was. In the fan film, 4 has many references that you were able to put in. So it seems to me like you really started with the story and then with the characters and their journey, rather than, like you said, just going and starting with the list and checking things off.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I love fan films. I've been watching fan films since Troops. I fell in love with Troops in like 1998. George Lucas in Love, of course, was the next big one a few years after that. And since then, there's been some really epic scale fan films in terms of visual effects or in terms of cinematography or anything like that. But I didn't really feel like since those two came out 10 years ago that anybody's really focused on story, which is what makes Star Wars so great. The special effects are fine, but 30 years later, the reason people keep watching Star Wars is the story and the characters. And that's what I wanted to try to capture is good characters and a solid story. It might be a little corny. It might be a little bit cliche for like an 80s teen movie, but that's what I liked. I grew up in John Hughes' hometown, and that was my life growing up. And so for me to tell that story, while John Hughes may have told it 20 years ago, it's still kind of like my story and very personal to me also.
And actually, I think, to Arielle's point, it was a really, really good job of tying everything together. But has anybody at Lucasfilm seen Hughes the Force? And if they have, tell us what their reaction was.
I know that Bonnie Burton loves it, who was Lucasfilm's online person for, I guess the last 10 years. And she's a big fan. I know Matt Martin, who currently does a lot of online stuff, is a really big fan. As far as higher-ups, James Arnold Taylor and Catherine Tabor are in the movie, as well as a small cameo by Tom Kane. So I'm not quite sure. I haven't gotten any word back down through like, oh, Dave Filoni loved it, or George Lucas really liked it, or anybody like that. But I do know that a lot of people out there have seen it, and I do know that Lucasfilm's aware of the project because obviously James and Catherine had to reach out and get permission to do the movie in the first place.
And I know that a lot of times at Star Wars Celebration, they have fan film awards, and they go through and they do screenings of fan films and stuff. Do you have any plans to do anything this year for Hughes The Force?
I don't think they're doing the fan film awards this year. I think they started in 2002, and this is the first year they're not doing it, which kind of breaks my heart. But we do have some plans I'm not ready to talk about yet that could be really, really cool. I can say, I don't think I can say anything, actually.
So later on, we'll find out all the cool stuff that you're going to do.
We'll turn off all the recording equipment. Don't worry, you can trust us.
Yeah, I can't. I don't think I can say anything yet. Hopefully next month sometime.
Awesome. So look forward to that on the Geek Speak Show.
Yeah,
sure, absolutely.
We're talking to J.C. Reifenberg, who's director of Hughes The Force. Not a spoiler, but letting everybody know who hasn't seen it yet. Kevin Smith does have a quick cameo that won't tell you what he does in there. How did you get Kevin to come jump in and say, hey, I'm here?
Kevin is, that's one of my favorite stories. My whole philosophy when I went into this is nobody got paid to do it. So I wanted everybody who was involved to have fun on the project. And if you weren't having fun, go home. If you're having a bad day, go home. And our motto when making the movie was, your focus determines your reality, which is a Qui-Gon Jinn quote from episode 1, where when I started, we wrote Kevin into the screenplay and had no idea how we were going to get him. I wasn't connected whatsoever. But I just was like, if I stay focused, it will happen. So there's a big epic tale that goes behind it. But the bottom line is that I started following him on Twitter. And one day he was like, hey, I need a cameraman for my show tonight. And so I just started tweeting at him. And I showed up with my full camera crew and everybody. And we started shooting his podcast. And that was in March. And then we finally, we did it 1 week. We came back the next week. We came back the next week. And I'm still working with Kevin. And so it just kind of worked out where it was just persistence and being creative in terms of how I was able to connect with him.
Let that be a lesson to everybody. That is, but seriously, that is usually how you do get jobs in the entertainment industry. I mean, that's not with Kevin Smith. That's pretty much how I got into radio myself. Just started hanging around somebody who was doing radio at the time, and before I knew it, I was getting paid to do it. So again, J.C. Reifenberg, he is the director of Hughes The Force. It's up on our link section, you guys. If you haven't seen it, you are missing it. I've seen it like 7-8 times, and just like a Star Wars film, I keep finding different things, not Easter eggs, but just different references. There's obviously it's in the title. There's Star Wars references. There's John Hughes references. There's also Raiders references. I love the Back to the Future one. I won't say what it is. You guys got to go in there and find it yourselves. But JC, before Hughes The Force, what were you doing before that? What have you worked on?
I did my first kind of like Star Wars fan film when I was in high school. We did like a 10-minute kind of end of the year big goodbye seniors type fan film in 1999, which was really cool. I went off to film school, and then I moved to New York, and I worked for Major League Baseball for a number of years. And then I moved out to Los Angeles, and I worked for different companies out in LA. And I finally found the right combination of people a couple of years ago who I started talking about this idea I had, and we all kind of came together and wrote it and produced it and did the movie start to finish. And at that point, the three of us quit the job we were working at this little kind of celebrity interview studio in Beverly Hills and just put full on into Hughes The Force for about a year, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, so what do you, I mean, I can kind of figure it out on my own, but what do you hope comes out of this professionally and personally out of Hughes The Force?
Well, I mean, personally, the coolest stuff that's happened, which I never even expected, was I'll get tweets from some people just randomly at weird hours of the night, and it just said, "Thank you, you made my day." or that was so cool, I've watched it 3 times. And to me, like, you know, it's a Lucasfilm property, Star Wars, and it's a parody, so we can't really go out and sell it and do all those sorts of things with it. So the feedback that I get from people who've watched it, we almost have 20,000 views on YouTube right now. And like the thought that 20,000 people got to see something that I put my heart and soul into, and overwhelmingly they liked it. I mean, that is enough for me right there. I mean, obviously I'm a filmmaker. I live in Hollywood. Hopefully somebody sees it and it's like, hey, this kid's got some chops, and will give me a shot at doing some sort of, you know, narrative writing or directing, which would be really awesome. But if nothing more comes of it than just like where it stops right now, I'm still really, really happy.
Okay, cool. So I add me to that list also. I won't tweet or anything. I'll tell you since you're right here. Great job on it. I really loved it. I mean, being a kid of the 80s, I got every single reference. I'm sure both of you did too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so really enjoyed everything that you did with Hughes The Force. So great job on that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Again, it's J.C. Reifenberg. He is a director of Hughes The Force. It's up in our link section. You guys can go watch it on there if you haven't yet. And if you have, watch it another 3-4 times. See what you guys find there. So, J.C., thanks a lot. You're welcome back a month from now if you want to tell us the news that you couldn't yet. If you want to come on back and break it, then you're more than welcome to.
Oh, for sure. Just, yeah, I'll reach out.
All right. Thanks, J.C. Reifenberg.
Thank you.
We interrupt this program to bring you important news.
Now you'll be able to watch us Speaking Geek, the Geek Speak Video Show. Coming soon to youtube.com/GeekSpeakVideos. Subscribe now.
I'm Ralph Bakshi, and you're listening to the Geek Speak Show. The Greek Speak Show is a place you eat, but this is the Geek Speak Show. Have fun. I had a
ball. We always have a ball. Welcome back to the Geek Speak Show. Packed show. Feels like it, it's like every other show. So let's talk about something else that was really cool. I actually met Paul Roman Martinez. I believe it was WonderCon or Image earlier this year. One of the two, or last year I think it was. But really, really cool because number one, I've always said on the air, you guys have heard me since those of you who have been here from day one. I think I was born in the wrong era. I should have been born either in the 30s or the 40s because I just love everything about that time. Yeah, I'm one of the few also who actually liked Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
It was very visually pretty.
Yes, and I actually like the story too. The Adventures of the 19XX is Paul Roman Martinez's baby. And on to talk all about it is Paul. Hi, Paul. Welcome to the Geek Speak Show.
Hi, everybody.
So tell everybody about the Adventures of the 19XX.
Well, like you were saying, you were born in the wrong era. I think I should have been born a time traveler because I love every era except the current one, maybe. And the 19XX is an opportunity to explore the 1930s, and it's about a group called the 19XX, and they've seen the future. They know how horrible World War II is going to be, and so they're trying to prevent it.
Definitely a noble goal.
How did this story come to you? When did it come to you, and when did it start becoming what it is now?
Well, I've always liked history, and then I was sitting down to do a story, and I said, I'm going to do a graphic novel. When should I set it? And I kind of was ending. I always liked World War II, a lot of fascinating stuff there, a lot of cool machines. And then, I like the steampunk stuff. So I was actually going to start setting in the steampunk era, but doing some research, I was like, there's it's pretty cloudy out there for the steampunk genre. So I think I'll set it a little bit later. And I decided on the 30s because I feel like it's so underappreciated and people really know very little about it when it comes down to it.
So with the story, there's so much to explore, to your point, for the 1930s and so much stuff that hasn't been done yet. So how many books do you think that this story will take up, or do you have an end in sight?
No, that's a good question. I actually have it pretty well planned out. It's going to be 6 books, and I'm about 75% through the second book right now, and so I'm hoping to get that published in August. But yeah, it's going to be 6 books, and the main story arc is the middle 4 books. So the first and last book, the first book sets you up as an intro to the 19XX, and the last book actually kind of says what happens to them, because the whole series ends in 1939. It doesn't go into the war at all. It's just in the 30s.
So are there any other story ideas for after whatever happens in 19XX?
Well, the great thing is every character in the story has their own stories, their origins, what they've been up to, and I've already started telling some of those side stories in a companion book that goes with my main books, and it's called Secret Files. And every main book gets a Secret Files associated with it also, and that's a place to tell some of these great side stories that all these larger-than-life characters have.
So then, where does your interest in writing and drawing begin? When did you start getting into it? And then where do you really, other than your love of history, where do you get your ideas from?
Well, I would say when I was a kid, I was pretty much raised by television, and I was the only kid on my block to have all the cable channels. So
we all, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go. That's everybody in this genre, right? And so I'd be like fourth grade watching Steel Magnolias, in the afternoon, and so I just always loved stories, kids stories, adult stories, whatever. And I think that's where I get my ideas too. I take in so much, and real life and fiction. I've always loved history. There's so many great stories in history. It writes itself, these stories, really.
And then with that sort of inspiration and the history of watching a lot of TV, but then this is also really story driven, and there's so much character. I'm wondering what other authors do you read? Where do you get influences and things like that? And well, I'd say the story side of it is really influenced by the history. And when I was doing research into the 1930s, every individual was so larger than life back then, like Lindbergh and Amelia Earhart. And a lot of my characters are directly based on real people. Like there's a magician in the book called Prince Herman, who is based on a real magician called Prince Herman. And there's a character called Zora, who's based on Zora Neale Hurston. And I think that's where the idea of all the characters come from. And just in life and everything, I'm fascinated by the way people interact with each other in real life. And so maybe that's where that comes from. And as far as inspirations, I would say more of my inspirations have been visual, in terms of the first BioShock game. That's what really inspired me to start on this path of the 1930s, but a little bit twisted, Yeah, the artwork is really interesting that way.
Well, in Larger Than Life you're talking about, that actually comes through in your booths, because I saw you guys at WonderCon and at the Big Wow Comic Fest, and the booth, you had it set up so there was all these props and all these cool things, and it was so almost interactive that I stopped by more than once. So how did you awesome. Get all of those? Where did they come from to get all those?
Well, I knew from the beginning, before I even did my first convention, that the booth was like the front lines, and that was your chance to actually talk to somebody. And that's one of the few places where they're going to look at your booth, your comic, and directly compare it to all the hundreds and hundreds of others that are out there.
Right.
Because you can just spin around and see hundreds of comics at a convention. And I've always liked Disneyland and really well-themed buildings and restaurants. I mean, it's a dumb thing that I have, but people know that about me.
Oh, it's not that dumb.
Well, if a restaurant has a great theme, I'll go there. I don't care about the food, And so I just knew that I needed to establish the theme with the book. And especially because it's a period book, people walk up, if they see a superhero book, they know, okay, it's about superheroes. I've read that. I know what that's about. And it takes place now. But the 30s, okay, this is the technology that was available. This is the color palette I'm using. You have to kind of remind them of that all at once. And that's what I set up the booth to do.
So I'm actually kind of familiar with setting up the booth. I actually was part of a booth at WonderCon as well for a motion comic.
Okay.
And so what advice would you give to writers or artists that would like to self-publish their work?
There's a lot of ways you can do it. I mean, you can take the all digital road. You can take the all print road. All that, there's all that stuff. But I'd say the most important thing is to think about how you're going to sell that book. You can make anything you want, but it's really hard to get noticed. And then when you do get noticed, a lot of times when I'm selling my book, it's one-on-one. I'm sitting there having a conversation with somebody, and I'm telling them, this is what it's about. This is what you'll get out of it. And, that it's really what comes down to one-on-one selling the book. And then, you can get lucky. You get a lot of, exposure online. People hear about you, and they just kind of buy it randomly. But I would say most of my sales, probably 90% of my sales are from shows. And 90% of those sales are me talking to the customer one-on-one.
He's Paul Roman Martinez, writer, author of The Adventures of the 19XX. So, Paul, let's go back a little bit. Actually, a lot, way back to...
Okay.
Not to the beginning of time, but when you were a lot younger, what was that one, if you can remember, what was that one event or thing or whatever it was that told you, yeah, I want to write, I want to draw, and led you to what you're doing now?
Okay, here it is. Ready?
Ready.
So I had this uncle who lived out in the country, and he had this warehouse that was full of junk. It was just tons of junk, right? Like Raiders of the Lost Ark type junk, right? That warehouse at the end. So me and my cousin would walk through there, and we'd look for stuff. So one time I'm looking through there, and I find this box of old comics. There was only like 8 of them in there, but all of them were pre-1960s. I was like, whoa, these are amazing. What are these? And I was old enough to enjoy. I was like 7th grade, maybe, And he let me take them home. I read them all. Front to back, over and over. And it just, at once, it impressed me because they were these great comics, but also because they were old, it was this sense of history. And like I had found something like this comic book archaeologist, And I think that that experience always stuck with me, how powerful these stories are when you first pick them up and then later when you rediscover them,
Hi, Paul. Jesus here. I have a question for you. What for people that are just listening to the show and haven't had the pleasure to have met the adventures of the 19XX, what's the difference on this story as far as dealing with I guess like future knowledge or time travel that is different than other stories out there?
Well, I would say it's similar to a lot of the steampunk stuff in that you take history and then you add a lot of layers. But I try to always make sure that the real history is recognizable, and I try to throw in real people of the time period. For example, the next book I'm working on, book 2, Howard Hughes shows up and he helps them design this machine, and then he kind of takes off again, But I just like injecting these real history characters. And as far as knowledge of the future, it's fairly limited. They have a good idea that the war is coming and how horrible it's going to be, and later, as the story progresses, you find out how they know that and who's telling them that. But as far as technology, a lot of it for me is based on like the covers of old Popular Mechanics issues, and so it's stuff that back then they would have thought of, but it wasn't exactly mainstream,
Absolutely. So, and it's really exciting having the real historic characters come in. I'm kind of a history buff too. I like getting into the real people and the real stories in the time. So I'm wondering, who is your favorite historical figure that you've been able to work in?
Well, it might be a tie. And in book 2, one of the things I did is a character in the book has this thing called a tuner. And a tuner is a backpack that allows her to tune in ghosts from previous decades. And so that was my way of getting to bring in any historical figure I wanted throughout the series.
I like that.
I like that.
Yes, we're very impressed.
Book, thanks, guys. The first book has Houdini for the most of that book. And then the second book, I brought in this engineer named Isambard Kingdom Brunel. And I don't have any of you guys heard of him?
I have not. I want to know more immediately.
He's a little on the fringe, I guess. I just happened upon him watching History Channel one time, and when they were showing a special on him, and he's this great, crazy, larger-than-life engineer from the 1890s in Britain, and his motto is pretty much build it bigger.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and he'd build everything so large, the biggest steamships, everything, and he was a chain-smoking cigar smoker with a giant top hat. So I got to put him in there. He's one of my favorite historical figures. And Howard Hughes. I've always had this huge fascination with him, and it was nice to get to put him in the scene.
So actually, I would say the History Channel, I guess that's how you do your research?
Yeah, History Channel. I got a lot of books on the period when I was first starting, and I just kind of pour through those. And then movies from the period. I try to watch a lot of 1930s movies.
Well, one of the things I've really enjoyed, I'm kind of a costume nerd. I do historic costume events all year. And I've really liked how you keep the clothes and the dress, like, really, it feels like of that era, and it authentic. Really feels, authentic.
Well, yeah, like I said, these characters are based on real people. So, for example, Penn, the cowboy in the book, he's kind of based on Will Rogers. And so I would look these people up and go, what were they wearing, And like, Will Rogers wore a cowboy hat, but it wasn't like your standard Stetson cowboy hat. It was more like a rounded brim and a bowl top, things like that. I tried to keep in the story as best I could, Yeah,
your book, actually, The Adventures of the 19XX, that it's a lot like another book that we featured here a couple of years ago now. It's called The Sons of Liberty, where it does take no pun intended, liberties with history, the beginnings of this country. How do you do with the 19XX? How do you toe the line between what's factual, whether it's the characters or events that happened back in the 1930s, and sort of putting in your own twist to it?
Well, I guess for me, like I said, I always want to make sure that the main core of history is recognizable. And it's almost as if this whole ship with all these guys on it, the crew, it really could have existed because they're not disrupting anything too much. They kind of keep to themselves on the little missions they go on. And then another thing is I have so much respect for what happened in World War II and the actual drama that was happening there that I kind of made a promise to myself that I'm never going to really show any Nazis. I just don't want to even go there because whatever I could write about a Nazi or a Nazi zombie or anything like that, it's like it couldn't top the actual evil that existed. So I just, at the same time, when I'm adding stuff to history, I have this respect for what really happened. That's kind of how I approach it.
If it hasn't been done already, I think you just gave somebody an idea for Nazi zombies.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure
almost
it's out
certain
there.
it's been done.
Yeah, I think it's done a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Paul Roman Martinez. The book is The Adventures of the 19XX. Very, very cool. You've seen it and will keep on seeing it at all the conventions. You're going to be at Comic-Con, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I have a small press table there against the back wall. I'll be there.
Okay, where else can we see you convention-wise?
After that, I'll be at Kamikaze, and that should be a big show. It was a really big show last year, and I actually did one of the posters this year.
Before you continue, I got to correct you, because I actually talk to Stan Lee sometimes. He corrects me. It's Stan Lee's Kamikaze.
Right.
Oh, that's right. It's now Stan Lee's Kamikaze.
Well, and I actually did a poster for him, the one where it's Stan Lee, and he's saying, Stan Lee wants you. I did that poster for them.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, actually, yeah, cool. But where else can we see you?
Other than that, online, follow along with the story, and then it'll be in print in August, the second book. And after that, I don't remember what's coming up after Kamikaze. That's a ways out.
Yeah, so just go on the website, which, by the way, is up in our link section. You can find everything on there. Anything else besides 19XX that you're working on that you can tell us about?
I'm working on a ton of stuff for the 19XX. I've got a toy coming out this summer. The second book.
Is it got moving parts? I love moving parts.
Not too many moving parts, but a little bit. It's not a resin figure, but it isn't quite an action figure, It's a walking tank that shows up in my book.
Oh, sorry, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting to me. Yeah.
Are you gonna have like a prototype or anything that I can check out at Comic-Con?
No, I had a prototype. I had to send it to them so they could work it up as a toy. But I did have a prototype in my booth for a long time.
Oh, I missed my chance. Oh, fail.
Okay, so that's where you can, like I said, go up in our link section. The website is on there. The Adventures of the 19XX. Paul, thanks a lot. I wish you continued success. You're welcome back anytime, and I'm sure we'll see you again at any convention that we go to.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. It was great talking to you, and I can't wait to see you at the next con.
All right, Paul. Take care.
Okay, see you guys.
It's time for the Geek Speak Show Book Club. Our books or graphic novels. Tell us what your favorites are. Books at thegeekspeakshow.com.
No, that's books at thegeekspeakshow.com. I think that's what I said. So, you got books?
I got books.
You got books. You got books. Everybody screams for books. So, who should start today?
Mine's kind of a sad note because there's the news that came out today that Ray Bradbury has passed away.
Yeah.
Really, really sad about that. He was really one of those influential authors for me. Been reading him since I was a little girl. I remember finding his books in the library and just like wanting to devour them. And so my book club recommendation in honor of Ray Bradbury is The Martian Chronicles, my very first of his books. It's a collection of short stories that he wrote over the years that were collected into this one. That was his first publication. And it's really just so phenomenal and so groundbreaking and really just brings out the heart in science fiction, which is what I love the most and which is what I really loved about his stories. So everybody go out, have a little sad single man tear, and then read a book for Ray Bradbury.
Who do you have? Top that one. Who do you have?
I know. Yeah, the single man tear was what got me. That was good. That was good.
Yeah.
All right, so I feel like I can bring back my Star Wars books since how we talked about Hughes the Force today. So I am going to go with a fun one, which is the Star Wars poster book. So this one, not a whole lot of reading unless you want to, because there's obviously a ton of pictures. But it is kind of more for the artist or the hardcore Star Wars fan, of course. Authors Steve Sansweet and Peter Vilmer. Posters from all 6 movies, early video games, promotional items, the visuals. It's all there in one book, and it's amazing.
You used to have that book.
I have that book.
You used to have
you
it.
might want to check your bookshelf. Actually, Henry, you don't have that book either.
Yeah, I borrowed it.
Oh, well, that's cool because Steve Sansweet actually signed it for me, so I'm going to need that back.
That's why I borrowed it.
So definitely check it out.
I am. Actually, I like it. Look at this. Anyway, so my book also has to do with something that we talked about earlier. David Lee actually talked about this earlier on the commentary. That is Watchmen, not the prequel, not before Watchmen. I'm actually interested in Watchmen, because I did go back and read it, probably because this prequel talk got to me. I don't have one opinion, honestly, one way or the other. I've always liked Watchmen. I'll tell you, I don't know if I said it on the air before, but I told somebody, I think at one of the conventions before, that when this first came out, I was, I think, 8 or 9 years old when it first came out as a single issue maxi series back in the 80s. I read the first 2, didn't get it. Didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
Yeah,
it was just a weird
little
comic
above
book.
your head at
yes, it
8
was.
or 9.
Gary, who used to be the owner of my back then comic book shop on here in San Francisco on 23rd Street. Yes, you all remember him. He actually tried to explain it to me, and my head started spinning even more when he tried that. It wasn't until years later when it's collected as this, the whole complete series, that I had a little more life experience myself also, that I actually read it and got it and loved it. Now, obviously, here it's in my bookshelf in my collection, and every now and then I do go back and do reread it again. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings. I read it every year just because I can. The Hobbit, same thing. Narnia books, the same thing, just because I can. And I do. So that's my pick. Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons, The Watchmen. No, like I said, have no feeling really one way or the other about this prequel. I'm probably going to go somewhere. I'll probably on Saturday, if they have any left, I'll probably pick it up over there at Flying Colors. So it's before Watchmen, the prequel. It's actually deals more with the Minutemen, which all of you who've read The Watchmen know what that is all about. So this book, I'm not going to say, kind of like the Martian Chronicles, I was going to say, you really don't have to say too much about it, because if you are listening to this show and you don't know what The Watchmen is, if you're listening to this show and you don't know what the Martian Chronicles is, you clicked on the wrong link. The one for the Girls Gone Wild.
They clicked on the right link. They clicked on the link that's going to teach them the wonder and the awesomeness. See,
they
we're
don't
teaching.
Read it, they see.
We're expanding their minds.
It's not what they're interested in expanding.
That's the Geek Speak Show Book Club. Tell us what your favorite books or graphic novels are. Books at thegeekspeakshow.com.
That kind of caught them off guard there. So there's another episode, This Is Why We Love. What did you say? You tweeted earlier, I saw that this is your favorite day of the week.
It's my favorite day of the week when I get to come and record with you guys. I'm laughing so much.
For most people, it's Friday. For Arielle, it is Wednesdays.
That's right.
Saturdays every month may be one for you guys, because we're doing the Geek Speak Video Show now. You guys get to watch all this stuff that you hear, all the fun that goes on. You actually get to be a part of it too.
And you get to see the behind-the-scenes silliness that happens.
Just
trust me, that's the best part.
Arielle, that's all.
Wide berth.
Minimum safe distance.
They might actually put gloves on me, like, to keep me reined in.
The Hulk smash gloves?
No, I was thinking like kitchen mitts that duct taped on so I couldn't hurt
That
anyone.
would actually be cool. Put not the kitchen mitts, but I mean the Hulk smash ones.
Oh, if you
I'll
make
have
the
to,
noise. If
I'll
you
have
hit
to
somebody,
carry
you'll
the
get the
Captain
noise.
America shield just to...
Could I hit the Captain America shield with the Hulk smash gloves?
Aren't you over the Avengers yet?
No.
I need protection, okay?
So, yeah, again, Saturday, June 9th, 12 p.m., Flying Colors Comics and other cool stuff. All the cool stuff will be Joe Field and the wonderful staff that he has there. Hulk Smash Brownies will be there. Libby won't be there, but the Brownies will be. And it's also a big thank you to all of the Flying Colors faithful. And all of you who went there, who was your first free comic book day, you picked a great place to go. Free comic book day. Flying Colors. That's the birthplace, actually, of free comic book day. So where else would you want to go? So this Saturday, it'll be more low-key. You heard Joe earlier. It'll be more low-key, which means there just won't be the cakes, but that's what more low-key means. But it will be, a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of comic book geeks. What do you say? Specials on the graphic novels?
Yep.
Specials and certificates for everyone who comes in for special deals.
Free Comic Book Day. Those had like magnets because all of you guys were drawn right to it. And you guys came out with stacks and stacks of graphic novels.
We had some time to peruse.
Yeah, so it's all with all of you guys. They will also give you coupons, a special coupon to use just on June 9th, just for going there. And just for going there. Free comics.
Oh, more free comics.
Yeah, and not just leftover from Free Comic Book Day. There's actually, Joe told me there's a couple of very rare ones in there. That's all I will say. So all the more reason to get there early and get your free comics if you missed Free Comic Book Day. The Jam comic will be there. Mm-hmm. That's, I think you asked if you can do stick figures. Yeah, as long as it makes sense.
I do very good stick figures. I'm like a stick figure expert.
So when you see one panel with stick figures, you know that one is Arielle's.
Absolutely.
Comic Slam. That's where we will have this. Not Arielle hitting you. We'll have the microphone set up on a boom. You guys come up and pick your favorite. Could be classic. Could be something from the Ultimate Universe. And it doesn't have to be Marvel. It could be from DC, from Image, from anything that's comic book. As you heard Joe say earlier, also keep it safe for all ages. There will be families and kids there, and me. Come on. And
Henry is very sensitive.
Act it out. I do live in California, after all. Act it out. And, you know, like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, somebody should act out Face the Tiger. You just hit the jackpot line. So you can do things like that. There's also, go on I think I put a link on our Facebook page, but definitely on Flying Colors Facebook page, there's a link to Joe. Joe is actually performing in front of an audience at Flying Colors. If you want to know what it's going to look like, that's what it looks like. That's what it'll look like. So
make sure you come down and be part of all of the epicness.
All you thespians, get ready for Saturday. And you can show us your skills. We'll put it on video.
And you could come in costume, and then you could act it out in costume and be like really cool like that and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's just a little excited about that.
I'm
so again,
very excited
that's
about this.
all happening this Saturday, June 9th, starting at 12 p.m. Flying Colors Comics and other cool stuff. 2980 Treat Boulevard in Concord. Go to our, it's not on the link section. It's on our Facebook page. It's also, I think we tweeted about it. If not, Arielle will. It's on Flying Colors Facebook page. Their Twitter, the at Flycode Joe. He's tweeting all about it. Tweet all about it. June 9th at 12 p.m. Flying Colors Comics and other cool stuff. 2980 Treat Boulevard in Concord. Be there, and you can learn. If you don't know it, you can learn the history of Flying Colors and Joe, and then you can come up and ask all the questions that you want to know.
If you think Free Comic Book Day was fun, this is just more of the same awesomeness that they deliver every single time.
And you get to hang out with us.
There's all the reason to go. Free comics. Why? The Geek Speak show is going to be there. So next week we will be here. We will. Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly what's going to happen because the producers haven't told me really. But we'll be here. Be here next week, and we'll speak more geek.
The Geek Speak Show will be back next week with a brand new episode. In the meantime, follow them on Twitter at Geek Speak Show 1. That's the number 1. Become a fan on Facebook. Subscribe on iTunes. Watch special event coverage and the Geek Speak Video Show on YouTube/Geek Speak Videos. And listen to past shows in the archive section on thegeekspeakshow.com. A big thank you to the Geek Speak Show's content providers, GeekTyrant.com, Collider.com, RamaScreen.com, and MightyVille.com.